Hola, hola, amigas. Welcome to another episode of Modern Latina in Midlife. Today, we are talking about a very specific type of breath work with a beautiful human being, friend, colleague, woman that I admire. She has created some beautiful transformations for me and some beautiful um, pivotal points of reflection and transformation for me in my life, in my healing. And she doesn't even know it. That's the beauty of women who share their gifts or share their voices and their messages, is you never know whose life you're touching and changing. But anyway, she does breath work in a very unique way, and it has been really transformational for me, and I just couldn't wait to bring her on and have her share her story and the work that she does. It is incredibly powerful. So I brought her on today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Ana Lilia is a celebrated breathwork, mindset coach, and intuitive healer in Los Angeles, California. She is passionate about helping people tap into their full potential by using their breath as a powerful transformative tool. Anna's expertise lies in assisting individuals in breaking free from limiting beliefs and aligning themselves with their deepest goals and desires. With her personalized healing journeys that include breathwork, intuitive guidance, and mindset exercises, Anna has helped thousands of people achieve their dreams. Ana Lilia is a first-generation Mexican American born and raised in Napa, California. Let's welcome Ana Lilia. You're in for a treat. Thank you for your time, Ana. Welcome so much to the podcast. I really greatly appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise and your lovely energy with us today.
You're so welcome. I'm excited to be here
Yeah.
and connect with you in a different way.
Yes, it is nice, right? It's different. It's different. I love it. So awesome. Well, I know a little bit about your work. Well, actually, I know quite a bit about your work, but a little bit about your story. But for the listeners, will you please share what your personal story, how you found breath work, and where it became a pivotal part of your life and your healing process?
Yeah. So I am a breathwork coach and intuitive healer. And how I got into this active form of meditating is that I was in a time of my life where things just were really hard, both mentally, emotionally. I felt like my life was falling apart. I had already embarked on my healing journey where I was doing therapy and also starting to explore other modalities. And when I came across breath work, it was like this missing piece that I discovered. It was so powerful and transformative. And I couldn't believe that just by connecting with my breath and actually manipulating how I was breathing, that I could have such a profound healing experience. And it's a very physical practice where the first time that I did it, my whole body was like moving and involuntarily. My hands cramped up. I was crying hysterically. It was just like this, so much of what I have been holding in my body for basically my whole life, because I was taught to like just be happy and don't share the hard stuff. That I felt with breath work, it was just a way to cleanse my body and help my body release from that trauma. So I fell in love with it so much and found it so helpful for my own healing journey that within a year of discovering breathwork, I decided to become certified and start holding space for people as well. Because at the time, and we were talking about, I think it's my 9th year, like
Wow.
around this time that I got certified. So it's been a huge part of my life now for quite some time. And it's been
Mhm.
incredible to introduce so many people, including you,
Yeah.
to the power of your breath.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. So what can you talk a little bit about how do you define breath work? I know there's different types of breath works. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then a little bit of what like the benefits and purposes are of each,
Yeah.
or whatever that looks like?
Yeah. So breath work tends to be just a general term that describes actively breathing. So being conscious of how you're breathing. If you have ever done yoga, you have done breath work.
Mhm.
If anyone has ever told you when you're stressed out, just take a deep breath in through the
Mhm.
nose, slow exhale. That is breath work as well. There are a lot of different types of breathing, whether it's counting, like the box breathing. You
Mhm.
imagine like a box,
Yeah.
and you breathe to the count of 4, you hold your breath for 4 counts, and then you exhale for 4 counts. All of these different ways of breathing, I feel like at the core, it's to come back to our center.
Mhm.
So using your breath as a tool helps you to regulate your nervous system. So if you are really overwhelmed and stressed out, you might not even be fully present. Actually, I guarantee that you're not fully present because your mind
Mhm.
is trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And so when we connect with our breath, when we drop our breathing to our belly using our diaphragm, it's almost like it's a light switch that you're able to switch your nervous system from being on high alert in the sympathetic
Mhm.
into being in a calmer state, the parasympathetic.
Mhm.
And the advantage of being in that place, even if you are in a really stressful situation, is that you're able to respond to what's happening in front of you, as opposed to having your automatic trauma responses take over.
Mhm.
And so I have found, and this is something that I teach my clients, it just puts you in a place of power and trust in yourself and confidence. So that's kind of the general,
Right.
I would say, description of breath
Mhm.
work. Now, the way that I use it
Mhm.
is there's a longer breathing practice that we do. It's about 30 minutes. And so
Mhm.
you're oxygenating your body, you are connected to your body. So many of us are disconnected, don't feel safe in our body, disassociate all the time. We're constantly being distracted. And so when you connect with your breath and you start to feel your life force, the vibrations, where emotions start to come up to the surface, where you start to get clarity and view things differently, because your mind is going to be active when you're doing breath work. It's a
Mhm.
really powerful healing tool. So that's
Mhm.
why, even though my offerings have evolved in the 9 years that I've been doing this work now, at the core, I always go back to breath work
Mhm.
whenever I see someone stuck or their fear coming up and holding them back, whenever they're procrastinating or not using their voice. I use it as a tool to help them identify, okay, what's happening? What part of you's afraid?
Mhm.
Um, let's reprogram those beliefs,
Mhm.
because in breathwork, you do enter into a meditative state.
Mhm.
So we're able to access your unconscious mind as well and start to present some reframes for your
Mhm.
brain, so that next time you experience something, it's not through the lens of the trauma you experienced when you were young.
Mhm. That is so interesting. So how do you, I guess, do you tailor then the breath work to that, whatever it is that you're working with, that particular person, whether it's releasing trauma or fear or whatever it is,
Yeah.
processing the trauma? Do you tailor that breath work, and is it in the breathing or is it in the meditation itself? I've always been curious about how you do that, because I've participated in several different of your breath works. The very first time I was introduced to you was at a We All Grow Latina workshop, and I think we were doing ancestral healing. And let me tell you, that was so incredibly powerful. I um that was really a turning point for me. You helped us reconnect, or at least I did. I can't even remember what happened, but I just remember I connected to my late father, both my grandmothers and my aunt, and they had a message for me, and it was exactly what I needed. And I cried so much
Yeah.
during that breathwork session. It was beautiful. And I think, I mean, I participated in a lot of modalities, but that moment was really, truly a beautiful gift and a really beautiful turning point for me. And I've always, but I've had different experiences with you as well, through different, your workshops that you do, the community gatherings that you do. And I've always wondered, is it the guided meditation? How do you do this? If you can share a little bit about that.
So early on, when I was holding space in these breathwork classes, I would start to hear things. And so, like, I would hear words or phrases. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I first experienced, I'm like, I don't know what is happening. Like, let me try to ignore it and just remind people to breathe. And then, but it wouldn't go away. Like, these messages would just get louder. And so I finally just decided to share it with the group.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is that right after class, I had folks come up to me and say, that thing that you said, I felt like you were in my head, like it was exactly what I was thinking, or that really resonated with me. Like that was the answer that I was looking for. And so with my mentors, they affirm, they're like, yeah, you're a clairvoyant. And so that's one of the things that makes my breath work different, is that I have combined a lot of modalities. And yes, you're doing a 2-stage breathing pattern, but really the way that I hold space and my guidance is very unique than other breathwork practitioners. And so I'm channeling messages throughout the whole session. So when it's a group workshop or class, I get a lot of information, and so I'm trying to discern, like, okay, what is going to be beneficial for the majority. And so that's what I'm sharing with the group. When it's one-on-one work, then it's really customized. It's like, I'm seeing your inner child, or I'm feeling a mother figure, or I don't know, I see this field with a rainbow. And then afterwards, the client's like, my childhood home was like in a field, and we would always have rainbows. And so at this point, sometimes the visuals that I get, or so I see things and I hear things, I'm clairaudient as well, seems really strange and out there. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm at the point now with my years of experience where I'm just trusting that it will make sense to my client. And then sometimes as well, what has happened is they're not quite ready to hear the message. And so I keep getting a recurring image for them, and I share it with them, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Then like 2 years later, they tell me, oh yeah, remember what blah, blah. I'm like, no, you never told me about that. They're like, oh yeah. So that memory came back.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I love that.
What makes it so powerful with these channeling is that I'm able to help you get to the core root of the trauma, the block, the limiting belief a lot quicker than, let's say, therapy or any other modality, because we just kind of zero in and we're like, all right, this is what's happening. What do we need? What do we need to change it? Is it a different way of presenting it? Is it forgiveness? Is it just like physically letting it go? Is it me embodying and expressing the anger that has been suppressed for so long? And so that's where the transformation happens.
And when you help them decide what that is going to be, whether it's letting go or screaming or forgiving or what have you, does that also come from the messages that you're receiving as well? Like, this is how we're going to transmute this?
Yeah, I let my intuition guide the sessions. And so, but also, especially with strong emotions like anger and expressing it, that can feel very scary for a lot of people, and unconsciously, maybe even dangerous. I know for me, I grew up with a father who's an alcoholic. And so anger and rage were emotions that I didn't allow myself to feel because it was really scary. And also my mom didn't let me, like I would get in trouble in moments of it. And so it was a journey to get to a place where I felt safe enough, and this is connecting with my inner child, giving her permission and having a safe space for her to express her anger without worrying of getting in trouble or getting hit or whatever it may be. And so I might tell you, like, okay, allow yourself to like punch the air or move, but you might not be ready for that.
Yeah.
So I'm really gentle in my approach, because the last thing I want to do is re-traumatize someone. And so again, I just I'm watching you, even though all my work is virtual, but I'm also like, if it's a private session, I'm watching the body, I'm noticing like what's happening. Even if I start to notice like some twitching that's happening, and then I'm seeing them trying to control it, just by inviting them to lean in, like, let your chin quiver. And as soon as they do that, then like this huge release.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting, Ana Lilia, what you're sharing with me, because I'm going through something similar myself. So it's interesting to hear your story. I learned pranic healing when I was introduced to Linda Garcia, who you know as well. And that was super helpful for what I was going through at the time with my son. And I got to a point where it's like, I need to learn how to do this so that I can help my son through his stuff. And once I started doing healings and kind of doing it for other people, I had that same experience. Like these messages, and I just like, oh my gosh, I'm getting distracted, like messages and these visions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like stop, Sonia, like focus on what you're doing. And they kept coming and kept coming. And one time it kept reoccurring after the healing for like a couple days. And I thought, I think I need to tell this person this. And so then I said that, and it was reconfirming. So then from that point on, I'm like, I think this is for you. So I started like just delivering those messages. And then I kind of stopped doing that. And but it's coming up again. It's almost like like spirit wants me to kind of embrace that. And so that's kind of the journey that I'm in right now, that when I go into meditation, I get these visions and these thoughts and all these things are happening. And I'm like, oh my God, stop, like, stop. I'm getting distracted, Sonia, like focus. And I had an aha moment the other day where I was like, oh, wait a minute. These are downloads. Like these are messages. Like this is what I'm here to do, So I've heard a message. It was back in the spring. I was standing right here at my desk and I heard a voice. And that was the first time I ever heard a voice. It said, you're meant for more. And I said, okay, I got to do something different then. So I'm on this journey myself.
So happy for you. Yeah. Another piece to that share is how beautiful that, your intuition and just guidance is coming through. But what's really useful information with how you reacted to it is the controlling part of you, right? That was like, no, that's not the way to do it. Like, I'm having these thoughts and labeling them as distractions. I'm meditating wrong. No, I need to be this way, or it has to be this way. And so all of that, I find it really helpful too, to highlight for my clients whenever I'm working with someone, because once we start to become aware of our patterns and our automatic reactions, and we start to identify like, okay, that's not helpful. That's actually blocking my intuition, my messages, the abundance, the flow, like, because I have so much rigidity in my life, or past stories or plans of how it's supposed to look like. And here your soul and your guides are like, let's shake things up.
Literally, that's how I feel. And I'm getting like goosebumps just talking to you, because that's how it is. They just keep coming in and they're like, wake up, girl. We're here to stay.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that you are finally accepting it. Because one of my biggest things that just like hurts my heart is when I see people like their potential, like if they would just take
Mm.
that action, if they would just say
Mm-hmm.
yes, everything would unfold, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the fear and the contraction and the worry keeps
Yeah.
them in the same place. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah. And I have to say that a big part of that for me is like, well, how do I come out as this person when everybody, it's el que dirán, it's like,
mhm.
what are people gonna say? What are people gonna think? I'm not gonna lie. That's part of it, because this is not how we grow up. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't grow up to believe in all these things. When I would bring stuff up, oh, I heard this or I saw that or whatever. It's like, I know esas cosas no,
Yeah.
so it's like, oh, okay, this is bad. So
Mhm.
I learned to become afraid of it too. And so
Mhm.
that led to more suppression. But I mean, it's shaking me up now, so I gotta own it. So
Yes. And it is a process to shed old identities that we
Mhm.
have placed on ourselves and that our society or our community has placed on us.
Mhm.
And what a beautiful example for you to share and be vulnerable
Mhm.
and inspire other people of also growing and
Right,
transforming
right.
and what it is like to live your own authentic life,
Oh,
and
and
that we're no longer in a place where you're supposed to do one thing for the rest of
mm-mm.
your life. Like,
Yes.
oh, just saying that makes my soul want to die. It's like,
Same, same. I can't. I have to be
yeah,
doing and learning something new all the time. And you are speaking my language. That is the purpose of this podcast, is to share stories of how people pivoted,
mm,
and that it's okay to change. And yeah, it's scary, but so just to like relay examples like your story or my story, and then of course to share the beautiful modalities like yours and how powerful they can be in aiding with that transition as well. So
yeah. I mean, before I was doing this, I was working as an actress and just doing all of these random jobs. And my parents, the whole time, poor things. I'm like, my parents are from Mexico, very
yeah,
oh,
mine too.
Catholic. And I'm just like, I'm the oldest daughter. I'm 40, I'm turning 43. I'm just like the biggest disappointment because I don't have kids. I'm not married. It's just like, what
All the
happened to this
things that
daughter?
they
And
worked.
what is she doing for work? Like, we don't even understand.
Actress, breathwork,
Yeah, she's like,
what?
when are you just going to get a regular job? And I just have never been able to do that. And I have done so many things. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, it's so easy, like living in your truth. No, it's really courageous and
Mm-hmm.
it involves you being conscious and taking aligned action
Mm-hmm.
and also being willing for people to project their own fears and
Mm-hmm.
limiting beliefs in perhaps not a nice way. And it
Mm-hmm.
might come across
Yeah.
as judging or making you feel like you have
Yeah.
failed or you're crazy. But
Mm.
the end of the day, like I tell my mom, I'm like, Mami, tú viviste tu vida como tú querías. Like you lived
Yeah.
your life the way that you wanted to. You made your own decisions for your life. And that's what I'm doing for mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the only thing we have, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I love that. And I think it's a beautiful example to others, right? Like, I know you don't have children, but maybe you have nieces and nephews. And I think that that's the most beautiful part is, for me, I have children and they're grown, but they're in their 20s, but I still feel like, wow, what a beautiful example to be able to show them that you can pivot and you can change your mind, and you don't have to go a traditional route, but you can if you want. It's just like, do what you
yeah,
want, do what makes you happy. And it's like, I didn't wake up until, I call it waking up. I feel like I lived life as a zombie raising my kids. I was
yeah,
a zombie just checking off all the things off the list that I was expected to do. Um, as I wish I had woken up earlier for the sake of my kids, but I didn't. And now I am. And I still think it's valuable. I still think it's just being able to see them kind of start picking up on those things. I think it's beautiful. And so I see that for other people as well, like for the people around you as well, setting that example.
yeah. I tend to work with a lot of people who are parents, they have children, single moms. And I always celebrate and commend them
Mm,
because I know y'all
Mhm.
have very busy lives. And so to
Mhm.
commit to 90 minutes a week for your
Mhm.
own personal development or goals can be a lot.
Yeah.
But yes, as you just said, it's such a beautiful example for your
Mhm.
kids on loving yourself,
Mhm.
making you a priority.
Yes.
And with it, you're going to learn and grow and heal. And so you're going to be able to show up as a better
Absolutely.
partner, as a better
Yes.
parent,
Mhm.
friend, like, because you're going to have tools. And not only are
Mhm.
you healing and, growing as an individual, but it does have a ripple effect, even if your loved
Yes.
ones are not actively doing
Yep.
healing work,
Mhm.
because the way that you're showing up in their
Mhm.
life, in your life is different. And
Mhm.
that different vibration and energy
Yeah.
is going to touch people
It's
differently.
contagious. One way or the other, whether it's positive or negative, it's contagious. So, yeah, I love that.
That's the beautiful work of healing.
Yeah. And so, okay, so going back to breath work,
Yeah.
I know that your breath work helps a lot with like anxiety as well, in your mental state and your stress levels. Can you talk a little bit about that? Um, and how that looks like, is it short term? Is it long term? Can you share about that,
Yeah.
please?
So when I first started working and using breath work, a lot of the people that I was working with, and it was just because of the state that I was in, really intense anxiety or
Mhm.
depression, to the point where they would decide to work with me and they would just describe themselves, I am anxious.
Mhm.
And with that statement, I
Mhm.
invite all of you to be very conscious of how
Mhm.
you speak of yourself, because stating I am anxious is affirming.
Mhm.
It's attaching identity to it. So
Mhm.
by simply changing the way that you're expressing to I am feeling anxious,
Mhm.
creates that separation and more accurately reflects and describes what's
Truly.
happening.
Yeah.
You are feeling it. You are not anxiety.
Mhm.
And so with breath work, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's a tool to help regulate your nervous system, to quiet the busy mind, to get clear and present. And so anxiety tends to be an emotion where it's a bit chaotic. You're kind of in between emotions. I feel like either you're not fully feeling the anger or you're not fully feeling sad. You're kind of in this limbo state where it just creates this unease in your body. And so by learning different breathing practices, and I actually created a 7-day breathwork for anxiety program
Mm. Mhm.
where it's short meditations that address different symptoms that one can
Mhm.
feel with anxiety.
Mm.
So tension in the body, there's a meditation that's called progressive muscle relaxation.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
it's a way to release the physical tension and tightness that you might feel in your body. There's
Mhm.
a meditation to help you fall asleep, because
Mm.
as we know, anxiety can
Mhm.
affect sleep.
Yeah.
Um, there's just different tools to help you learn how to use your breath to calm things
Mhm.
down.
Okay.
And
That's
so
good.
that's been really powerful and life-changing, and it's just something that you have for the rest of your life.
That's awesome. And that's on your website?
Yeah.
Okay, I will link that. So for
Mhm.
those that are interested.
Yeah.
So with this breath work, I know it's different because what you do is different because I've done the workshops with you. But can you like show us what that basic breath work exercise or just describe what that looks
Pattern.
like for listeners who have not experienced that?
Yeah. So I like to use a 2-stage breathing pattern where the first inhale that you take is using your diaphragm. So you can breathe through your open mouth or through your nose. But when you breathe using your diaphragm, your belly's going to expand. So as you take a deep breath in, you can even place a hand on your belly right now and practice with me.
Mhm.
You're going to feel your belly pushing up against your hand.
Mhm.
If you have kids, if you have pets, notice how they breathe.
Mhm.
They breathe using their belly. But at
Mhm.
a certain point, maybe because of trauma you experience, maybe because you're a female and you've been taught that you should have a flat stomach. So you go all day like sucking in your belly and
Mhm.
it's pushing your breathing up into your chest.
Oh.
So it's a lot of times it's a little bit of unlearning on how
Yeah.
we're breathing, because on average, folks tend to breathe just using their chest.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's enough to have us be alive,
Mm-hmm.
but to truly be in a relaxed state, you want to drop down your breathing to your diaphragm. So for the 2-stage breathing pattern, the first one is from your belly, a second breath, then we bring it up into our chest. And then that's when you exhale. So it's
Mm-hmm.
2 inhales and then you exhale, belly,
Mm-hmm.
heart, and exhale. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the circular breathing pattern. And energetically, what we're doing, or what I was taught around this modality, is a lot of times we stuff our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be someone who experiences IBS
Mm-hmm.
or stomach issues, or like when you're stressed out, your belly hurts. So when we start to consciously connect to that area and using your breath, you're expanding it. And then we're taking a second breath and bringing those emotions up into our heart center to start to process them, to start to forgive, to feel. And then we exhale. It's just this beautiful cycle of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, as you're doing it, imagine doing it for about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It does
Mm-hmm.
feel like a workout.
Mm-hmm.
Then the way that I'm holding space, not only through my channeling, but also with my playlists. So
Mm-hmm.
music is a huge part of the
Yes.
work that I do. And I create intuitive playlists, healing
Mm-hmm.
playlists to take you on a journey too. So the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics of the music as you're
Mm-hmm.
breathing might have a memory come up, might
Mm-hmm.
have you reflect on something, might help you actually express that emotion. And again, it's just cleansing.
Yeah.
It's a release. Like you're going to feel
Yeah.
so much lighter
Mm-hmm.
afterwards.
It
Because we
is
don't realize how
beautiful.
much
I can
we've been
definitely
carrying so
attest to
much.
that. Yes, I can
Mm.
definitely attest to that. Your playlists are magic. It's so beautiful. And then with the guided meditation and that breath work, it is quite an experience. I love it. I come out feeling lighter and transformed.
Oh,
I come out of it as a different person because
yeah.
I've processed,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Now, when I do the breath works with you and I still get scared, and it's a workout. So I have to be mindful of when I do them to make sure that I have the time afterwards to recover and rest and process. But what I feel, and it scares me, is that I paralyze, like my
Mhm.
hands paralyze and my feet paralyze and they tingle, but I can't move and it scares me. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I know you've told me it's normal. What
Yeah.
is happening with this when this
All
happens?
of those experiences, like everybody's going to have a different physical reaction to the breath work. And also every single time that you do it, it will be different as well,
Mhm.
given on what's happening in your life. And so if you're feeling that like tingling, it can be the tetany, as I mentioned, where it's just a different ratio of carbon dioxide and oxygen in your body that's having you feel those sensations. We're talking about like from a spiritual, energetic place, and you find yourself with your hands clenched or your jaw gets
Mhm.
really tight. I always invite folks to reflect on, what are you afraid to let go of? Or
Mhm.
what are you feeling like still the need to be in control of?
Mhm.
Um, it all, like those sensations are just
Mhm.
temporary. It's just
Mhm.
an example of life, right? Any
Yeah.
discomfort, whenever
Yeah.
there's change happening, something new, there's going to be discomfort, but it's
Mhm.
just temporary. It
Mhm.
will go away. So
Mhm.
for you, if you're still feeling some fear coming up when you experience it, I would encourage you to reframe and just remember, okay, this is like the 20th time we've done it.
Mhm.
Every single time we have
It's
felt
been
that way, but
okay.
it goes back to normal.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
what if instead of contracting as that's happening, if we just give in even more?
Mhm.
I have a feeling that those sensations that you're feeling will just go away at this
You
point.
think
Like
they'll
at this
go
point,
through
I've done it.
faster?
I've done breath work so much that I don't get the crazy
Mhm.
body stuff anymore. It
Mhm.
tends to be
Mhm.
more of like an emotional release for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah.
And is this something that people, well, my listeners or women in midlife that they can do on their own, or is this something that should be done with some guidance? Should it be a daily routine? Can you share about that?
So if you're brand new to breath work, I would encourage you to seek out a practitioner to experience it. But if you're just doing a short 5-minute, 10-minute meditation, like my breath work for anxiety, I kept them small as well so that there isn't all this like activation happening. And then you're like, I don't know, I'm feeling all of this and I don't know what to do with it. And those are very specifically guided for that reason. So there's different ways of doing it. And then should you do it on a daily basis? Since we established that breath work is basically just connecting with your breath, yes, you should consciously connect with your breath every single day. And just like being at your desk or at work or with your kids, when you're feeling tired or contracted or stressed out, just check in with your body. What's happening? How are you breathing? Are you breathing? Or are you holding your breath? Are your shoulders rolled forward? And just the simple act of opening up your body, taking a deep belly breath, it's almost like you're hitting like the reset button to how you're feeling.
And what I love about breath work is that you can do it anywhere, anytime. Nobody needs to know you're doing anything. You can just, that's what I love about it. And it really is kind of like the quickest way of getting out of your head and just like easing. And it's so easy to forget to breathe sometimes. And so we should be breathing, like blowing up our bellies. That's how we should be breathing, like on a regular basis. Wow. Yeah. I still can't do that.
It's practice. It's practice.
Yeah. Maybe it's practice. So what would you say, are there any misconceptions about breath work, common misconceptions or fears that people have about breath work that we should address?
Yeah, because different people do their classes differently. Like there's some that are a lot more intense. It's more like it feels like you're hyperventilating and they're like constantly yelling at you, and it's just more this like masculine energy. That can be more intimidating, and especially when they incorporate all of the breath holding and this and that. I have found folks, it's like too much for them. So I just encourage people to like try it out, try different practitioners, do your own, come up with your own patterns. And at the core, like you're just breathing, right? So it is safe to do this work. If you have certain health issues, consult with your doctor. But I've worked with women who are pregnant. People have also asked me like, oh, is this okay with the church? And that was a really interesting question.
That's interesting.
Because I'm like, well, literally all we're doing is just breathing.
Yeah, that's
There's
interesting.
no like, but I understand, why, because at the end of the day, this is an empowering tool. And my experience with the church is that it's not an empowering tool. They want to keep us controlled, following rules. So when you explore other things, then they can be that threatening.
So, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for bringing up, that, you've done this with pregnant women. So this is safe for children. Is there anybody that should avoid breath work? I mean, in the way that we're discussing it, like the type that you practice.
Because I practice such a super gentle breathing technique, I say that it's perfectly fine for anyone. If you're going to be doing a breathing pattern where it's more like you're hyperventilating, and if you have like heart conditions or a certain medication, then you might want to be like more careful. Again, always talk to your doctor. But literally you're breathing right now. Listening to their podcast, you're breathing.
Yeah, seriously.
So by changing your breath just to drop it down to your belly, like it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, totally. So Can you share what has been some of the most rewarding experiences that you have experienced as a breathwork practitioner?
There has been so many. I mean, at this point, I have worked with thousands of people, and
Oh,
people have had really profound, deep healings that 20 years of therapy
mm-hmm,
couldn't
mm-hmm,
bring that to light.
mm-hmm,
Um, and just seeing them, I have so many clients that tend to do all of my programs. So I've seen
mm-hmm,
them over the years
mm-hmm,
evolve and become more confident and become
mm-hmm,
wealthier because they reprogram their money beliefs. And
mm-hmm,
um, it's just incredible. And
mm-hmm,
it really warms my heart when I get some messages from clients who share that they do breath work with their kids, like they're listening to the breath work for anxiety meditation, and
mm-hmm,
their child is also doing it with them.
mm-hmm. I love that.
Um,
I
it's
love that.
just, it's so wonderful. I've had the opportunity as well to have like generations of family breathing
Mm-hmm.
together. And so from
That's beautiful.
abuelitas to the
Mm-hmm,
grandkids, and just seeing them do this practice, which is vulnerable
mm-hmm. Yes, it
and
is.
profound and intimate,
Mm-hmm.
but it just brings down walls, and it
Yeah.
allows people to have more compassion and love, not just for themselves, but for other
That's
people too.
beautiful. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I've never thought about inviting my mom to do a breath work with me. I'm gonna do that. One of your
Yeah.
community gatherings. And so talking about community gatherings, can you share with us some of your programs? I know you do some beautiful virtual workshops, which is what we did a lot of through the
Yeah.
pandemic. And gosh, that was so, I mean, that was so supportive. That felt so
Yeah.
supportive and beautiful. And that was one very easy way and accessible for people to participate in that. But can you share about your programs and how people can work with you?
Yeah, so I have monthly breathwork classes, and it's virtual, it's donation based. So that's a great way to get an introduction to my
Mm-hmm.
work. I also have a membership. So if you're wanting to explore not just breathwork, but different healing modalities, every month I have a different guest expert or healer that
Mm,
shares their tools. So we
mm,
have a library of master classes,
love
and it's called the
that.
Collective. You also have meditations there and moon circles, and it's a really beautiful
I
container.
love
Basically, it's like
that.
everything that I do
Yeah.
stuff. I'm like, here you go. Now you
Yes.
have access to it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That is
So
so cool. Why
that's
didn't I know that? I hadn't paid
been.
enough attention. Okay, share more, share more.
Yeah. And then my other offering is my Dream Bigger Mastermind. And so
Mm-hmm,
that's one of my favorite
mm-hmm,
containers because it's helping you. We do healing work, but it's to help you manifest your goals.
mm-hmm,
And so I grew up in a household, being first generation, growing up in poverty. I wasn't really allowed to dream. Like anytime
mm-hmm,
that I shared my desires, they were shut down, and I was
mm-hmm,
told, we can't afford it. That's not for
mm-hmm,
us. Like, no.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I was I was craving like community or a place where I could share my dreams. And I know other
mm-hmm,
people had dreams. I also tend to work with a lot of Latinas. And so
mm-hmm.
I created the mastermind also during the pandemic 3 years ago now. And
Mm.
it's been so fun. It's a 6-month program where
Okay.
we look at your beliefs, we reprogram, we do breath work, we hold each other accountable, and
Mm-hmm.
people haven't manifested incredible things. So
That's awesome. And so it's a 6 month program. So is that going on now? Is that coming up? When's the next
yeah,
one?
so I am starting my fall program at the end of October, and then the next one will be in next year.
Okay. 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 Awesome. I will link all the things in the show notes so that people can know where to find you. What is one last piece of advice you have for our listeners today that you can share before I let you go?
Yeah, I just, one thing that I always tell my clients is no matter what you have experienced in life, no matter what your current circumstances are, if you're not happy with that, if you feel like it's causing you more pain than joy, you have the power to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love seeing people lean into that fear and discomfort. And similar to what you shared, like honoring your truth, listening to your intuition, and taking the steps to do that. And your breath is a powerful tool that you can use to quiet the noise, to get center, to get really clear, and to feel courageous enough, even though it's still a little scary, to say yes to yourself.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. That's beautiful. Perfect. Thank you, Ana Lilia. Where can people find you? Where can people find your work?
Yeah, so I have a podcast as well.
Yes.
It's called Breathe More, which Sonia helped me launch it. So yeah, I share a lot of resources there as well, just different ways to reflect, meditations I include. I have inspirational stories. So that's called Breathe More, and you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts.
Love that.
And then I'm on Instagram. Under Ana Lilia.
Okay. And I will link that because I know you have underscores on yours. And so that's always a little bit tricky. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ana Lilia, for sharing your time and your expertise. What an honor.
This is so fun.
This is so beautiful. I love it. Anytime I can connect with you, and your beautiful energy is such a treat. So anytime you want to come back, let me know.
Gracias, Sonia.
You're very welcome. We'll be in touch. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation with Ana Lilia. I will link all the resources that we talked about in the show notes so you can access her beautiful work. You will love it. Her monthly, as she mentioned, her monthly community gatherings, workshops are a great way to introduce yourself to her work and the power of breath work. Thank you so much for being here. Share this episode with your friends, with your amigas, with your comadres, with your primas, and let's continue empowering one another to live our best life in this midlife chapter of life. Hasta la próxima, amigas.